You're in line for one more fine time.
Hello, merry people. It's your boy Dre, and we are back with our last show before Christmas, Steve.
Our last show before Christmas means it wasn't Christmas yet, Andre.
Almost Tekken means it wasn't Tekken, which means this Tekken, the motion picture episode, is our Christmas present to you. I'm sorry. I can promise you'd rather have a lump of coal than watch this terrible anime. So ho, 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 and all that shit.
Ho, ho, no, more like got him.
You got him. Right between the eyes, got him. Real quick, we always introduce what the fighting game is for some reason. I'm sure everyone knows what Tekken is, but for the one person who doesn't, it was Namco's answer to Virtua Fighter. It hit the arcades like shortly before Virtua Fighter 2. I remember one of the most successful arcade games of all time, Virtua Fighter 2. But Tekken didn't even look good sitting next to the original Virtua Fighter. I don't know about you, Steve, but if you saw this game around at arcades, this original game looked rough. So bad. The fonts were so bad. The gradients on the Versus screen were just so amateurish. Do you remember the arcade cabinet? It even had like the Pac-Man fruit denoting like what stage you were on.
No.
Yeah, it had like cherry. Yeah. It had like Pac-Man fruit. Namco was just trying anything, man. They didn't care.
How did this get ever popular then?
They made Tekken 3 one of the best fighting games of all time, actually one of the best games of all time. And then from there it took off. I mean, I guess it had fans before that if they got to Tekken 3, but like, Jesus Christ, I don't know, man. So I guess we could start there. How did you ever feel about the Tekkens to this point?
Well, back then, and even now, I respect Tekken. I never really liked it that much. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was the 3D. I mean, but I eventually got over that when Soul Calibur came out and was landing in places. I never really did for Tekken. And it's weird because now I'm trying to figure out what Tekken I actually played first, because I played a bit of Tekken 2, the PS1 port for this show, and I'm like trying to remember if I've actually played this or Tekken 3 more that sprung up in places.
Tekken 2 is so busted now when you play it. Do you like how once you get up there in the computer ranks, they just decide, I'm going to kill you in 3 hits. And that's it.
I just feel like that was fighting games at the time because, you know, that was the business model. Give money.
Well, 3D fighting games had the damage ratios jacked way up. Well, back then, the damage ratios were high anyway. Like, if you play, like, Old Street Fighter 2s, you could die, like, real fast compared to newer ones, but
I feel like that was part of the problem whenever I found Tekken in the wild, too. There was just this assumption you were already supposed to be good at it. Like, it's the first day of school, and it's midterms and rocket science already. And I'm sure there was some kind of reward for that if you were willing to give it to it, but I was, me, I'm the Street Fighter fan. I'm not amazing at Street Fighter. I wasn't going to sweep Evo in it, but I like Street Fighter, and Street Fighter's not charging me, not even the new Alpha is charging me 75 cents a game to play it.
yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, my relationship with Tekken has gone up and down over the years. Like I said, I never really cared for the first 2 games, and then Tekken 3 is one of the best games of all time. And then Tekken 4 sucks. And then Tekken 5, again, is one of the best games of all time. And Tekken 6 is fine. And then Tekken 7, it's complicated, right? So it's been up and down, but I would consider myself a Tekken person, as evidenced by the show. I have rarely anticipated something as heavy as I have Tekken 8. So I'm here for it.
Andre, does Tekken 8 have graphics on PlayStation 5?
No, we can't do that. We cannot do that right now. I'm going to get into a frenzy. I'm going to have to start playing that music. We can't do that.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. We can't. I can't do that to myself. We have to talk about
Fine.
this shitty ass anime, Tekken the Motion Picture, which, by the way, folks, is not a motion picture whatsoever. It's 2 OVAs in Japan, 30-minute OVAs that they jammed together for us and called it a movie, Steve.
See, I thought we weren't going to call it a motion picture because no one's really moving in it.
Oh, no. No, we can't afford that, even though it's produced by ASCII Corporation and Sony Music Entertainment Japan.
Why, but people have heard of those companies before, Andre.
Exactly, and they put out the money, especially at that time. Sony still does. Shit, look at anything produced by Sony Pictures, whether it's like Bullet Train or like whatever. They spend money. And this was also animated by Studio Dean, which, like, go look at their credits. They have a lot of good stuff under their belt. Really weird how crappy this turned out, but let's just get to it. Usually in this fighting game anime series so far, we don't get too in depth with the nitty gritty of what actually happened because that's not really the interesting part. However, in Tekken the Motion Picture, oh boy, we got to talk about a lot, Steve.
Well, you know, the beginning, we got vague announcer guy. Since the dawn of man, the art of fighting is dope. The art of fighting is great. But we're here for Tekken, and Tekken is life!
He's not exaggerating. He starts out so, like, almost mouse fart quiet, and then by the end, he's like, now the Mishima Corporation will Devil Jin, yada yada. It's so wild. He gets so up there. But it opens with young Kazuya and young June.
Together for reasons.
Is like doing what now? It seems like a flashback, I guess. She's sad because nature or something, and Kazuya's like, don't worry, the bobcat will... Something about a bobcat.
She's mad that a bobcat hurt something, and he's like, don't worry, I'll beat up that bobcat for you. And then Heihachi just walks through like, no son of mine, I'll be this weak. And we get to see that iconic scene of flinging him off Mount Tekken.
Mount Tekken.
You tell me what it is. I barely know Tekken, but I know that we gotta drop everyone off Mount Tekken.
But they did it like 2 seconds into the fucking anime. Like they didn't even waste any time. Like, and it was like baby Kazuya. It wasn't even like full grown. Like, you know, Kazuya throws Heihachi off the cliff at the end of Tekken. Yeah, that's the ending. But like, also, it was this entire thing to just further canonize Kazuya throwing Heihachi off a cliff, because like later in the anime, Kazuya says he willingly sold his soul to the devil to make sure he could exact his revenge on Heihachi. But like, what the fuck does that even mean? Also, like, isn't the devil gene like an inherited Mishima family trait? What does he mean he sold this soul to the devil?
It's probably an easier way to tell the story than midichlorian. It's probably easier to say, well, Kazuya was near death and sold his soul to the devil than, well, you know, demons have midichlorians. You know, we wouldn't really understand that for another 20 years. When Sakurai's standing there, well, Kazuya and our new character in Smash Brothers has the devil gene. Let's see how it works.
I mean, it could have been, well, Sakurai was too busy making the original Smash Brothers to worry about Kazuya at this time. So, anyway.
I mean, so flash forward to the today times. June's going into work, and we have anime's only black guy. We found a dinosaur. It's probably Mishima Corporation's work. Anyway, we need you to get them, June. Here's a tournament pass that we have in your name. We just happen to have lying around. You could win, but possibly not. There's an awful lot of Tekken about.
One never knows when the Tekken is about. What was that about? Do you like how, like, she's just in the middle of talking and she's just saying blah 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 blah, staring down at the desk, and then he slides the invitation to her and she just goes, "What is this?" Like immediately, like looks. It was just the change in tone. It's like, did you record that on like 2 different like 2 different years? It was weird. Okay, and then we immediately cut to the car, right? And then like Nina is there and Lee is there, I guess.
I guess that's supposed to be Lee. He just reminded me of like Edgeworth's long lost brother. It doesn't really matter. No one really showed up sober to this thing, and everyone's clearly reading their lines for the first time.
Okay, let's go into it, right? The voice acting here was way worse than either Art of Fighting or Samurai Showdown. Samurai Showdown isn't great, but it's really charming. Art of Fighting isn't great either, but like, you know, it's a 90s dub. It's about what's expected for the time. Tekken is awful, Steve.
Like, Hayachi is passable, but even that's not very good.
It's fine, right? It's fine.
I mean, it's 90s fine, but it could have been better, and it just gets worse from there.
Well, as we said, anime's only black guy, besides Bruce, who gets punched into the ocean for no reason by Jack, and because that fight's over in 2 seconds. The guy who gives June the invitation to the tournament accidentally calls her Kazama June. Like, that's the way you'd say it in Japanese. In English, you would obviously say Jun Kazama. That's like the kind of mistake you hear in a fan dub, Steve. Jesus Christ. But then he says Heihachi Mishima in the correct English order like 2 seconds later. So it was just probably just a flub in the script and he read it as is, but oops.
Well, this was an ADV production for us, right? In the dub, like everything else.
Yeah, but so like, and so was Samurai Showdown. So it shouldn't have been this bad. It's weird.
There was probably pressure from high up saying, look, we need to get this shit out the door. Just record the lines.
Well, actually, let's talk about that because the game came out September 21st, 94. This anime came out January 21st, 98. And I'm sure not long after here. Like, that's about the time of Tekken 3's release on PS1. So they were probably pushing this thing real hard. Like, we have to get this out before Tekken 3 hits PS1, Steve. So I think, as joke as you might, I think you're actually correct.
I mean, it definitely shows because the animation is just not great. You already talked about how Jack one punches the security guy into the ocean, and then the USS Tekken pulls out. Kazuya does a backflip on a boat, and that should be flashy as hell for a 90s anime, but it's not.
It's not. It looks terrible. And like, by the way, want me to tell you how bad this anime is at characterization? That wasn't a security guy that Jack punched. That was a real character in the game, Bruce. He's in Tekken 2.
Was that?
Yeah, but they just made him like just a fucking trash, like 2-bit character, and Jack punches him to the ocean, never to be seen again. That's how fucked up that is. Like, come on, man.
I feel like they stuck a bunch of characters in here and just didn't even give them lines. They're like, well, there they all are.
Yeah, well, okay. So when they get to Tekken Island or whatever it's called, they for the Iron Fist tournament, they show a roster shot before the festivities begin, but most of them don't really factor in. They show Paul Phoenix, you see Martial Law, you see Yoshimitsu in that shot, but none of them are in the anime. They don't even speak in that roster shot. Like, they don't have a single line. They do not factor in at all. They're just cameos. Just like, here's everybody. And then they gave more screen time to the goddamn kangaroo, Roger. They gave more screen time to him than like Paul Phoenix. What are you guys doing? Also, like, the guys that are in here sometimes don't even get the screen time they deserve. Like Ganryu, the sumo wrestler, he exists who basically gets punched in the gut by Michelle, or is it Julia or Michelle? And then like he coughs up some blood and then he falls over and that's it. He doesn't even have a speaking role, Ganryu. He just goes, and then dies. Like, it's so bad. The characterization here is really missed the mark.
Look, they needed to spend that time giving some more character development to June. You know, she lands on the island and she's looking wistfully out the hotel. Is he really the same boy from the past? How could he have changed so much? And then they got to do a quick pat around from young Kazuya, who just anamorphs into adult Darkstalkers USA Dimitri. Blah! I had to replay that shit like 3 or 4 times to make sure I looked at that right.
So, okay, he obviously doesn't turn into Devil Kazuya like for realsies. It's just a projection of what his soul is or whatever. But I don't know why they had to do it like that. That was so weird.
Blah!
He is Dimitri from Darkstalkers USA. It's ridiculous. So as we said, this was 2 OVAs in Japan. See, I said OVA, not OAV. Of 2 30-minute OVAs. What was surely the end of it is when they got to Tekken Island, because they did like you know how when you beat the case in Phoenix Wright and they have the one main character huge and then all the other characters around? They did that with Heihachi. Heihachi was like a huge, like imposing figure, and then all the other characters standing around, and then it cut to black.
Welcome to my tournament. Blah!
I thought you were going to say, welcome to Tekken Island. Yeah, man, it was awful. Imagine, Steve, being a Japanese teenager at that time. You love Tekken. You went to the store and got this very expensive VHS tape at the store, because they were not cheap back then. Neither are they now. And you get this home, and that was the 30 minutes you saw. Wouldn't you be like pissed? I mean,
it does end with Michelle getting that cheap shot in with the small tomahawk, which he bites down and breaks apart. But that's the closest thing we get to actually watching, and that would not have been worth my money.
Oh,
no.
You mean when she tries to assassinate Heihachi and he just crushes it with his teeth?
Yeah, I will not hide.
Yeah, that was actually well animated, but that was like the only well animated move in this whole thing.
And that's where the budget was.
I mean, Jesus Christ. Oh yeah. So like they flash back again to young Kazuya climbing up the cliff that Heihachi threw him off of, and then he gets up the cliff, and then he's like laying there in his own pool of blood, enough to be like dead. He looks like a zombie from Resident Evil, like when the big pool of blood appears, so you know they're dead. It's like, I don't think a child has that much blood, and if it did, he'd be like, there's no way that's possible.
Well, that's the devil blood.
Oh, okay, excuse me. And then, like, okay, that's like a dream Kazuya is having. He wakes up from that, and he immediately starts intoning, I had that dream again. Something dark and sinister is growing inside of me. A dark feeling, itching and clawing to get out. What is this feeling? And then Nina immediately starts shooting at his windows with a machine gun, because she's trying to assassinate him because Lee told her to. What the fuck am I watching?
Did my father send you?
Also, like, Lee has the worst voice in this, right? It's just incompetent. It really is. It's terrible. He's like, that initial scene we were talking about in the car with Nina, he's like, I do have my image as a businessman to maintain.
I wonder if he's familiar with Robert Garcia, future head of the Garcia Corporation.
Yeah, they'd probably be best bros, right? If Rio wasn't already his boyfriend. Did they mean to leave that take in? He literally said businessman. I rewound it a couple times to hear it. Also, while he's talking to Nina, because, you know, he's asking her to assassinate Kazuya, and he's like, I need you to finish off Kazuya Mishima because I can't bear the thought of losing you. What? What does that mean? And then that's never followed up. That is never followed up on. That happens a lot in this anime. There's a lot of stuff that is said or shown, and then you never hear of it or they speak of it again. It's so bizarre.
Nothing is really dwelt upon for very long or in any meaningful way, because, you know, they eventually do start the tournament, and anything they do that happen, most things that happen are just resolved or never resolved again in just a few seconds. Like, yeah, you already talked about Jack punching Bruce into the ocean, but they send armies of robots after Lei and Jack, and they're like just thrown over the balcony in 10 seconds.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Lei Wulong is in this because we got lost with all the other bullshit. Oh yeah, Lei's here, I guess. Oh, do you remember the part where like Lei is like trying to like break into the underground part? He's like knocking out some like guards or whatever, and then Jack shows up and literally kills this guy. He throws him against the wall, and his head pops and it's like blood smears down the wall. It's like, Jack, you just fucking killed him. You're just trying to like But nobody cares. Like they just go right in. It's like, okay. Jack has the little girl he's protecting who has a disease. Of course, that's Jack's story in the game too. So they play that up here in the anime. But can we just talk about the way that resolves real quick? Because oh man,
Which part? The part where he finds Dr. Light and he knows how to cure the girl, or the part where they're all trying to escape and he gets crushed by the garage door closing and he's like, I will be reborn as a human or whatever.
Yeah, he's like, I will be reborn, but in my next life, I will take care of you or something like that. It's like, what? How do you know that? How do you know you're not going to be reborn as like a fruit fly or something? Also, do you like how when he got crushed by the door when they're trying to escape, Jack bled like real blood? Like it was like red blood.
He's a Reploid. That was the explanation the doctor gave too. He gave him a soul, so some sort of soul circuit, so he could feel shit. Not that it matters because we're only here for an hour.
Yeah. Like you said, Jack punches Bruce into the ocean and is never heard from again. The armies are robots, and then that happens real quick. June fighting Kazuya could have been like actual character development because they're seeing each other for the first time since kids or whatever. And like that could have been like a cool thing, like character development through fighting. We see that in martial arts, martial arts movies rather. And that's cool. But that doesn't get to happen because they whiff at each other for 2 seconds. And then the Williams sisters, Anna and Nina, both show up to kill them. Nina puts a wire thing around Kazuya's neck and he escapes from that. And then Anna shows up with a fucking rocket launcher. You remember that? And she just like blows up the room. It's like, okay, like we could have just had some real fighting, but you two hoes just. Like,
she had a really hard time using that piano wire too, because like what's his. Is his neck made out of frozen ham or something? Because she was having a really hard time. Like,
yeah. Well, Mishima necks are very, very tough, I guess.
and the Williams sisters, they have an incestuous cat fight in the tournament too, and that should have been like, okay, this is shit, but at least there's a hot anime 90s cat fight in this, and that gets fucking ruined when Anna gets eaten by a dinosaur like 10 seconds in.
Folks, I want you to absorb what this man just said. Anna Williams gets eaten by a fucking dinosaur on Tekken Island.
They don't even have a real fight first. It's not like they just release the dinosaurs and then they release the dinosaurs and they can do camouflage for some reason that they can turn on and off, and they have this whole, no, you must have killed our father. Like, how dare you?
Then she gets eaten by a dinosaur, and then after that, Anna and Nina are never seen again in the anime. They're gone from the rest of the show. I cannot process how stupid this is. And why is the bioweapon a fucking army of dinosaurs? I know it's the 90s, but like, what the hell is going on? This is one of the most baffling fighting game adaptations I have ever seen. Like, again, we can say what we want about Art of Fighting, but Steve, at least it was like South Town. You had the city, you had the characters there doing their usual motivations. Yeah, a lot of them were Mr. Big Flunkies, but at least like King was king, and like, Robert was the head of the Garcia Foundation. They at least had something, right?
And there was fighting.
There was fighting. It wasn't very good, but it was better than this. It was better than Tekken.
And anytime we say a fight happens, we really mean there's a still image of a punch hitting a person, and our imagination is supposed to fill in the rest. It's not very fun to watch.
Not at all. Oh, by the way, you want to tell the audience how they introduced Anna Williams to the show?
Anna wasn't she also trying to...
She was in the shower, baby. We got to see them titties.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talk about this, but was the boob to rest of the thing ratio really worth it here?
No.
I
mean, it's the best when it's like, AD Police or something, when you get the boobs and the show is fantastic, right? We didn't get any of that here. We just got the boob for a couple seconds, I guess. And But she was showering in Lee's condo or whatever, so Lee was banging both Nina and Anna, I guess. I don't know.
Gotta keep track of them Williams sisters, otherwise
With sex.
Otherwise one of them might get eaten by a dinosaur.
Wei Lu Long is horny as fuck in this thing, by the way, to the point where like June calls him out on it. Not every woman is helpless or whatever she says to him at some point. You remember that line?
Yeah.
That's like very slightly progressive considering like how horny Robert Garcia, head of the Garcia Foundation was, just running completely unchecked over that entire anime. This is a little better, I guess, but not really.
But again, why really dwell on that long? We got dumb shit to do.
Halfway through this piece of shit anime, I realized that Kazuya kinda sounds like the Tekken announcer himself. Round 1, fight. Like he has that same like intonation.
He sounds like the Tekken announcer if he talked through a talk boy and then you fed that through a yak back. My father runs Tekken Island. I must defeat my father.
Yeah. Oh, you like how when the dinosaurs show up and he kicks a dinosaur square in the face and then he's like, something is very wrong here. Bro, he just fucking kicked the dinosaur in the face. What do you? Of course something is wrong here. Oh, speaking of no shit moments, do you remember when June is about to fight Kazuya? They see each other in the gym or whatever. And then June's like, why are you so upset? Is it because your father threw you off that cliff? I don't know, lady. What the fuck do you think?
No, it is because I'm at the gym and there's this nosy bitch asking me why I'm angry.
Oh, just so much stupid. And like, by the way, don't think this is like, we're laughing at this shit. It is not worth watching for this shit. This anime sucks. It's not so bad it's good. It's just bad. Trust me.
So fucking bad.
Yeah, so what happens? Lee gets mad because like he's the adopted son of Heihachi, but then Kazuya comes back, so like Lee gets jealous or something and sets off the self-destruct or something, I guess. I think that's what happened.
No, yeah, Lee's just pissed off because, like you just said, he was adopted and he's been trying to prove himself by being the brains of the Mishima Corporation and coming up with all these, this fun shit like the dinosaurs and other weaponry bullshit over here on Tekken Island. And it's all falling apart because Kazi is really good at punching things in the face on occasion. So it doesn't help that Jack's also punching other things in the face on the other side of the underground of the island because I guess no one really knows how security cameras work, even though they have all those ladies in visors. So eventually he shoots them all in the face, in the back or whatever.
Oh, by the way, I'm looking through the notes right now. I did write down exactly what Jack said when he was dying. He said, when I come back next time, I will be human for you. That's what he says.
Hot.
Also, wasn't she like, Dad, no, or whatever, like when he was getting crushed by the door and hella blood is like, I don't think the kid's response would just be like, Daddy, no, like.
I don't think anyone really knew what to do here because eventually we do finally get our Kazuya Hayashi fight and they do the bullshit thing still with complete still images of them vaguely punching each other. Watch your hatred grow into power. No, but maybe. Ah. This was always your destiny. Ah.
It is so bad. It was just awful. I didn't have any hope for that fight being any good by the time we got there. And then there's an epilogue where like June is with a very young Jin Kazama. And, he's a baby because, Tekken 3 is about to come out. Got to put in Jin somehow, right? And they're outside playing. And then June is like, something in the wind just changed. And then Jin is like, huh? And then June's like, oh, nothing. End credits. What does that even mean?
The way she's leaning, like, come on, Jin. It's she's like saying like they're all sitting there like checking off a thing like, Like they all got a mandate on high of things that absolutely needed to be crammed into these two OVAs. Like, okay, Jin, okay, that's all the shit on the list. We can end this thing now, right?
Yeah, we got Jin in there somehow. Wow, this was such a fucking turd from front to back. I want to talk about the music real quick because the music in this movie, if you want to call it one, is used really sparingly. There's not an actual score so much as just like some licensed songs show up here and there. There's songs from like The Urge and Stabbing Westward and, you know, like that sort of late 90s metal industrial kind of hip hop-ish sometimes music before all of that became like new metal. You know, in the mid to late 90s, there was like a moment where it's like, okay, this is sort of like fresh alternative rock, and then it became trash, but whatever. That's another topic. Being a young man of the 90s, I love that type of shit at the time, and I still do, but there's just simply not enough of it because like most of the fights play out completely silently.
I was going to say, I'm very impressed that you picked up on any actual music in between all the noise that was trying to be made, but there were a lot of, oddly quiet moments for this fighting game anime.
Just crazy. This is obviously in stark contrast to Art of Fighting's incredible jazz rock, lest we never forget. Samurai Shodown had the era appropriate lutes and drums and shit like that, but you know, like to have just like American rock music over this is weird. Obviously, this had to have been added for our motion picture. I sincerely doubt the Japanese soundtrack had this stuff. I mean, I bet they certainly didn't play The Offspring over the credits, Steve. I mean,
are you kidding? That's how everyone in Japan first heard The Offspring.
And you know what? I love that song that they played, Meaning of Life. That is my all-time favorite Offspring song. It's just really inappropriate here. One thing we always judge fighting game anime on is, did they do the moves from the game? So I'll cut Tekken some slack in this area, Steve. We'll see if you agree. Because like most 3D fighters are based in like real martial arts, right? And therefore they don't really have like special moves like fireballs and hurricane kicks, right? Like, I mean, kinda, but not really. Yeah, there are identifiable combos and like some signature stuff they could have done, but that would require well animated fight scenes, which this motion picture does not have. So yeah, they don't really do any combos or like moves from the game, but they could have at least done some like electric fist attacks for the Mishimas. I mean, they are known for that. They could have just painted a little electricity and done a sound effect. The one time like Kazuya gets to punch Heihachi.
See, I'd be inclined to cut some slack too if we had fun shit to watch, but like I mentioned above, this is a series that relies on a lot of fast-paced action and combos and things like that, and forget Tekken. For a martial arts anime, it'd be nice to see as much martial arts animation as possible, and I would say that really fucking matters when even Art of Fighting faked its way through something.
Yeah, again, those weren't great, but at least it was something. This was nothing at all. Just a disappointment from top to bottom. This completely sucks. Like, I don't know. This movie came out when I was starting to get into Tekken. And if I had seen this at that time, I would have been really harsh on it. At a time when I was not critical of this kind of stuff at all. Yay, fighting game and anime, I love it, right? Like, I was not really thinking that deeply about it back then. Even I would have been like, this is crap. Like we keep saying, Art of Fighting wasn't good, but it's very recommendable if you just like fighting anime, if you like 90s anime in general, because it has a great aesthetic. Tekken, the motion picture, doesn't have a great aesthetic. It barely even looks like Tekken. They didn't even do the thing where it's like, here is a background I recognize from one of the games. They didn't even do that.
What are you talking about? They had Mount Tekken.
I don't think you actually fight at Mount Tekken.
No, I guess you really don't.
Yeah, as far as I remember anyway. This Tekken, the motion picture, is recommendable to nobody, in my opinion, Steve.
Yeah, Andre, this sucked. I went in with low expectations based on Reputation and whatever else, and I was still disappointed. I figured, okay, you know what? People are just being harsh on this, overly harsh on this, because it was the 90s and things have gotten better since the 90s. But no, this was bad. Even back then, this was bad. And no, don't watch this. We warned you. Don't watch this.
It's not, like I said, it's not even good for a goof. Just don't watch it. Just go listen to an Offspring record and you'll have a better time. All right. Next week, Steve, should we tell the people?
Should we tell them?
That's all you got. Toshinden next week, everybody. See you next time. Bye.
We'll see you next time on Fine Time.
With the nitty gritty of what actually happened, because that's not really the interesting part. However, in Tekken,
I'd rather watch something called Tekken than this.